The live stream to Grandpa Everett showed my empty hands first, then panned across my bedroom door. Sweet 16 reveal coming up. I whispered into my phone, trying to contain my excitement. You ready for this, Grandpa? His chuckle crackled through my earbuds. Ready as I'll ever be, sweetheart. I pushed open the door, already imagining how I'd arrange the new art supplies he'd promised me. The words died in my throat. Where my easel should have been, a pristine white crib stood in a shaft of afternoon sunlight. My posters, my paintings, my entire life had been erased. Pale yellow ducks danced across freshly painted walls. Mom, my voice came out smaller than I meant it to. Dad. I heard their voices floating up from downstairs, probably in Dad's study. My feet felt heavy as I descended, still broadcasting. The study door was ajar, and I caught fragments of their conversation. Better this way, Conrad. She'll understand eventually. Marlo, maybe we should have. Should have what? Waited until she came home from school? Given her time to throw one of her dramatic fits. I pushed the door open. Mom stood by the window in her tailored blazer, while Dad slumped in his leather chair, not quite meeting my eyes. What happened to my room? I asked, though I already knew. The nursery theme, the timing, it had to be for Seraphina's baby. Mom's lips tightened into that familiar line of disapproval. Elara, good. We need to discuss some changes. Changes? The word tasted bitter. You mean how you turned my bedroom into a nursery without telling me? Your sister needs that space more than you do right now, Mom said, as if explaining something obvious to a child. We've arranged for you to stay with Aunt Callista. Dad shifted in his chair. It's only temporary, honey, until we figure something out. Figure something out? I gripped my phone tighter, suddenly grateful for Grandpa's silent presence on the other end. I live here. This is my home. Was your home? Mom corrected. Honestly, Elara, you're 16 now. It's time to stop being so self-centered. Your sister is starting a family. She needs our support. The room spun slightly. And what about what I need? What you need, Mom's voice turned sharp, is to grow up and stop making everything about yourself. Callista's expecting you tonight. I've already packed your essential items. I looked at Dad, but he just stared at his hands, shoulders curved inward like he was trying to disappear into his chair. Some defender. Happy birthday to me, I guess, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Thanks for the heads up. Don't be dramatic, Mom sighed. Your aunt's place is perfectly nice, and it's closer to your school. This is hardly the tragedy you're making it out to be. I backed toward the door, my hand finding the doorknob. You're right, Mom. It's not a tragedy. It's just really, really clear where I stand with you both. As I turned to leave, I caught Dad's flinch, the slight tremor in his hand as he reached for his coffee cup. Mom's reflection in the window showed something flicker across her face, not guilt, exactly, but something close to unease. I ended the live stream as I climbed the stairs, but not before whispering, "Did you get all that, Grandpa?" His response was immediate and grim. Every word, sweetheart. Every single word. Standing in what used to be my room, I ran my fingers along the crib's smooth, white railing. The nursery was beautiful, really. Perfect for the golden child's perfect baby. But as I traced one of those cheerful yellow ducks, I made a promise to myself. This wouldn't be the end of the story. Not by a long shot. Aunt Callista's spare room smelled like lavender and fresh paint. She'd stayed up late helping me hang fairy lights across the ceiling, transforming the plain walls into something almost magical. But at 3 in the morning, even magic couldn't quiet my mind. My phone buzzed. A text from Seraphina. Mom says you're being difficult about the nursery. Can't you think about someone else for once? I switched off my phone and padded downstairs, following the sound of clinking dishes. Aunt Callista stood at the kitchen counter, her dark hair messy from sleep, stirring something in a pot. Couldn't sleep either? She asked, not turning around. How do you know it was me? Because you walk exactly like your mother used to, before she started wearing those ridiculous heels everywhere. She poured hot chocolate into 2 mugs, adding a handful of mini marshmallows to mine. Want to talk about it? I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. Did you know? About their plans for my room?
No.
Her voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. Marlo called me yesterday morning, informed me you'd be staying here. Like I was some kind of hotel service. You could have said no. And leave you where? With them. She sat across from me, her eyes sharp in the dim kitchen light. Do you remember your 10th birthday? I stared into my hot chocolate. The art show one? You spent weeks preparing those paintings. Your teacher even called to say how talented you were. She paused, stirring her drink. Your mother scheduled a client dinner for the same evening. Your father promised he'd come see your work after, but he fell asleep in his study instead. The memory still stung. Mom said I shouldn't have expected them to rearrange their lives for a school art show. You stopped painting after that. Yeah, well, what was the point? The marshmallows in my cocoa had melted into a sweet, sticky swirl. Mom always said art wouldn't pay the bills. Callista's phone chimed. She glanced at it, her expression darkening. Speaking of your mother, what now? She wants me to send you home this weekend for a family dinner. Serafina's announcing her pregnancy officially. She looked up at me. You don't have to go. Yes, I do. I traced the rim of my mug. If I don't, they'll say I'm being selfish again, making everything about me. Like they made your birthday about Serafina? Callista's voice was gentle, but her words hit hard. My phone buzzed again upstairs, probably another text from Serafina. I thought about my sister's perfect life, her successful husband, her growing family, our parents' constant approval. But I'd seen the cracks in her smile at family gatherings, the way her hands shook when Mom criticized her weight or career choices. You know what's funny? I said, breaking the silence. When I was little, I used to think Serafina hung the moon. She'd sneak into my room after Mom and Dad's parties, tell me stories about her college adventures. Then she met Richard, and suddenly it was like she became Mom's mini-me. Callista reached across the table, squeezing my hand. People change, sweetheart. Sometimes not for the better. Yeah. I squeezed back, then stood up. I should try to sleep. Big family dinner to prepare for, right? Alara? Callista called as I reached the stairs. Whatever you're planning, and don't tell me you're not planning something, just remember that revenge might feel good in the moment, but it won't fix what's broken. I paused, thinking about the live stream Grandpa had witnessed, about the way Dad couldn't meet my eyes, about all the birthdays and art shows and moments that had slipped away. Maybe not, I said quietly, but neither will pretending everything's fine. Grandpa Everett's Mercedes pulled into Aunt Callista's driveway exactly 3 days after the birthday incident. I watched from the window as he emerged, his usual crisp suit replaced by casual slacks and a sweater. He looked older somehow, tired in a way I'd never seen before. You didn't have to come, I said when he entered, though my tight hug probably gave away how glad I was to see him. Actually, I did. He set a leather briefcase on Callista's coffee table. Especially after what I witnessed on that live stream. Callista appeared with coffee, her expression guarded. Marlo called this morning. She's not happy about you being here, Dad. Marlo hasn't been happy about anything since she married that spineless. He caught himself, glancing at me. Sorry, sweetheart. But we need to discuss something important. He pulled out several documents from his briefcase. I recognized the Whitman Industries letterhead. Your mother's been pressuring me to sign over control of the company, he said, spreading the papers across the table. She claims it's about succession planning, but the timing is interesting, isn't it? The same week they kick me out? I picked up one of the documents, scanning the legal jargon I barely understood. The same week they assume I won't find out about their treatment of you. His voice hardened. They forgot about our weekly video calls, didn't they? Callista leaned forward. What are you planning? Before he could answer, my phone buzzed. Mom's face appeared on the screen. I showed it to them and Grandpa nodded. Put on speaker. Alara? Mom's voice filled the room. Your father and I expect you at dinner tonight. No excuses. I'm studying with. This isn't a request. Your sister's announcement dinner is important to this family. And since you're still part of this family, despite your recent attitude, you will attend. I caught Grandpa's slight nod.
Fine.
I'll be there. And wear something appropriate. Not those awful ripped jeans. The line went dead. Still part of the family, I echoed. Funny how that works when they need something. Grandpa tapped the papers. They need more than you know. The company's facing some challenges. Nothing serious yet, but enough to make your mother nervous about her position. And Serafina's baby is what? Their backup plan? The perfect family image, Callista murmured. The successful daughter, the precious grandchild, the disposable teenager? I added. Grandpa's expression darkened. You were never disposable, Alara. And it's time your parents remembered that. He pulled out another document. This is my current will. I'm making some changes. Dad, Callista warned. Don't do anything rash. Rash would be letting them continue this behavior. He turned to me. Tonight's dinner? I'll be attending too. Uninvited. My stomach twisted. They'll blame me. Let them. He squeezed my hand. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for people we love is to stop enabling their worst behavior. I thought about Mom's controlling voice, Dad's constant silence, Serafina's perfect life built on perfectly crafted lies. What if it makes everything worse? Worse than being erased from your own home? Callista asked softly. Worse than being treated like an inconvenience by the people who should love you most? Grandpa gathered his papers. The question isn't whether this will make things worse, sweetheart. The question is whether you're ready to show them who you really are, someone who won't be pushed aside or forgotten. I picked up my phone, looking at Mom's missed call notification. I guess we'll find out at dinner. Yes, he said, and for a moment I saw a flash of the shrewd businessman who'd built an empire. I suppose we will. I arrived early for Serafina's announcement dinner, slipping in through the kitchen door like I used to when I was late for curfew. Voices drifted from Dad's study, Mom's sharp tone, Dad's quieter murmur, and Serafina's familiar laugh. The company's practically ours already, Mom was saying. Dad's getting sentimental in his old age. All it takes is one grandchild, too. I edged closer to the partially open door. But what about Alara? Serafina asked. She's his favorite. Everyone knows it. Alara is a child, Mom dismissed. She can't run a company. Besides, once the baby comes, Dad will forget all about her artistic phases and teenage dramatics. Marlo, Dad's voice carried a rare note of concern. Maybe we should slow down. The way we handled her birthday. The way we handled it was necessary. That girl needs to learn her place. And with the merger coming up? The merger? Serafina's voice sharpened. What merger? Richard's company, Mom said. Once we announce your pregnancy, the timing will be perfect. A merger between families, securing both companies' futures. Your father-in-law is already on board. My hand flew to my mouth. Richard was Serafina's husband, but he was also the CEO of their biggest competitor. A merger would mean, you're using my baby as a business deal? Serafina's voice cracked. I'm securing our family's future, Mom countered. Something your sister seems determined to undermine with her constant need for attention. Speaking of attention, Dad cut in. Dad's car just pulled up. I backed away from the door, but not fast enough. It swung open, and I found myself face to face with Mom. Her perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her flash of panic. Alara. Her smile was brittle. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. The words came out steadier than I felt. So that's why you wanted the nursery done so quickly. It was never about Serafina's baby. It was about the merger. Serafina appeared behind Mom, one hand protectively over her stomach. Alara, it's not what you think. Really? Because it sounds like Mom's using your baby to manipulate Grandpa and secure a business deal. I met Mom's eyes. That's why you needed me gone, isn't it? Because I might tell him the truth. You understand nothing about business, Mom snapped. About what it takes to protect this family's legacy. Protect it? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. You mean control it, like you try to control everything else. The doorbell rang. Dad emerged from the study, adjusting his tie. That'll be your grandfather. Perfect timing, I said, watching Mom's face pale slightly. I'm sure he'd love to hear about the merger plans. about how his great-grandchild is just another business asset. You wouldn't dare, Mom hissed. I thought about my empty room upstairs, about years of missed art shows and conditional love, about Serafina's face when she learned her baby was just another piece in Mom's game. Try me, I said, turning toward the door. Mom grabbed my arm. If you ruin this, you'll what? Throw me out again? Too late. The doorbell rang again. Serafina's hands were shaking. Dad wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. And Mom, for the first time in my life, I saw real fear crack through her perfect facade. I pulled free of her grip and walked toward the front door, my heart pounding but my step steady. Behind me, I heard Mom's heels clicking rapidly across the floor, rushing to beat me there. The game was about to change. I just hoped I was ready for what came next. The college brochures spread across Aunt Callista's kitchen table looked like escape routes. Art programs, photography majors, creative writing departments, everything Mom would hate, everything I might love. Berkeley has an excellent fine arts program, Callista said, sliding another pamphlet toward me. And it's about as far from here as you can get without leaving the country. My phone buzzed. Another message from Serafina. We need to talk. Alone. I'd been ignoring her texts since the dinner disaster 3 days ago, when Grandpa had stormed out after learning about the merger plans. Mom hadn't spoken to me since, but her silence said enough. Alara? Callista tapped the brochure. You're miles away. Sorry, My phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Richard, Serafina's husband. Meeting at the office. Important information about your mother's plans. Come alone. I have to go, I said, standing abruptly. There's something I need to handle. Callista caught my wrist. Whatever you're planning, remember what happened last time you tried to face them alone. This is different. I showed her Richard's message. He might have proof about the merger, something we can show Grandpa. Or it could be a trap. She frowned. At least let me drive you. They'll see your car. I'll take the bus. I grabbed my jacket. Besides, I'm tired of hiding. The corporate office loomed ahead 30 minutes later, all glass and steel and secrets. The security guard barely glanced at my student ID before waving me through. Richard's office was on the top floor, with a view of the city that probably cost more than my college fund, if I even had one anymore. The elevator doors opened to reveal not Richard, but Mom. I knew you'd come, she said, stepping inside before I could retreat. So predictable. The doors closed. We started ascending. Where's Richard? At home with your sister, who, by the way, is absolutely devastated by your betrayal. She pressed the emergency stop button. The elevator jerked to a halt. We need to talk about your future. My future? I laughed. You mean the one you're trying to control, like everything else? I'm trying to protect this family's legacy. Something you seem determined to destroy. She pulled out an envelope. Inside is an acceptance letter to Swiss boarding school. Very exclusive. Very far away. My throat tightened. You can't force me to go. No. Think about Serafina. The stress you're causing could harm her baby. Think about your father. His position in the company depends on this merger. She held out the envelope. One signature, and you get a fresh start. Isn't that what you want? The elevator felt smaller by the second. What I want is a mother who actually cares about me, not just her precious company. Don't be dramatic. This is a generous offer. Take it before I change my mind. I looked at the envelope, then at her perfectly composed face. You know what's funny? I used to think Serafina was the lucky one. Your perfect daughter, your pride and joy. But she's just as trapped as I am, isn't she? Something flickered in Mom's eyes. Fear? Recognition? Before she could respond, my phone chimed. A message from Grandpa. Don't sign anything. On my way. Mom saw the text. Her hand tightened on the envelope. Time to choose, Alara. Your family's stability or your selfish desires. What's it going to be? The elevator hummed around us, suspended between floors like my answer hung between us. I thought about the college brochures, about Serafina's shaking hands, about years of trying to earn love that should have been unconditional. I reached for the envelope. I took the envelope from Mom's hand and ripped it in half. The sound echoed in the elevator like a gunshot. "That was a mistake," she said, her voice deadly quiet. The elevator jerked back to life, ascending to the top floor. When the doors opened, I found Dad and Richard waiting, along with two security guards. "I tried to give you an easy way out," Mom said, stepping past me. "Now we do this the hard way." Richard held up a document. "Sign this, and we forget the scene you caused at dinner. Your grandfather never learns about your little outburst." "What outburst?" I looked between them. "The truth about how you're using Serafina's baby to manipulate him?" "The truth," Dad finally spoke, "is that you've become unstable. Dangerous to this family's reputation." "Dangerous?" I laughed, but it came out shaky. "Because I won't play along with your games anymore?" Mom nodded to the security guards. "Show her." One guard pulled out a tablet, playing a video of me at the dinner. But something was wrong. The footage had been edited, making me look unhinged, aggressive. My words about the merger were cut out, replaced with what looked like a jealous rant about Serafina's baby. "Social media is so unpredictable," Richard said smoothly. "Once something goes viral—" "You wouldn't," I whispered, but I knew they would. "Sign the papers," Mom said. "Agree to the boarding school, or this video goes public. Think about what that would do to your college applications. To your future." The elevator dinged again. Grandpa emerged, followed by Aunt Callista. Relief flooded through me until I saw their faces. "I saw the video," Grandpa said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Alara, how could you?" "What?" "No, it's fake." I tried to tell them. Callista cut in, her eyes pleading with me to understand. "But the footage." Mom stepped forward, all concern and maternal worry. "We've been trying to handle this privately, Dad. Alara's been struggling since we announced Serafina's pregnancy. The therapist suggested a change of environment might help." "I'm not struggling," but my voice cracked, making me sound exactly like the unstable teenager they'd portrayed. "They edited that video. They're trying to force me out because I know about the merger." "Merger?" Richard laughed. "What merger, Mr. Whitman? I assure you, there's no merger. Just a troubled girl who needs help." I turned to Grandpa, desperate. "You know me. You know I wouldn't." "I know you've been under a lot of stress," he said gently. "Maybe your mother's right. Some time away." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Even Grandpa believed their lies. Even he was willing to send me away. "The papers," Mom pressed, holding out a pen. "Sign them, and we handle this as a family. Refuse, and the video goes public." I looked at each face in turn. Dad, avoiding my eyes as usual. Richard, smug and certain of victory. Callista, torn between loyalty and the evidence before her. Grandpa, his faith in me shattered by their careful manipulation. And Mom, finally showing real emotion, triumph. My hand shook as I took the pen. The document was filled with legal terms, but one phrase stood out: voluntary commitment to residential treatment facility. Not boarding school. A psychiatric facility. "Last chance, Alara," Mom said softly. "Choose wisely." My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Serafina. "Don't sign anything. I have proof. Hold on." But as I looked up at the wall of faces against me, at the carefully constructed trap they'd laid, I realized something terrible. Sometimes holding on hurts more than letting go. I pressed the pen to paper, my signature the only weapon I had left. The residential facility's admission papers felt heavy in my hands. Just as I pressed the pen to paper, the office door burst open. Serafina stood there, breathing hard, one hand protectively over her stomach. "Stop," she commanded, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. "Nobody's signing anything." Mom stepped forward. "Serafina, you shouldn't be here in your condition." "My condition?" Serafina laughed, sharp and bitter. "You mean the condition you've been using to manipulate everyone?" She pulled out her phone. "I recorded everything, Mother. Your conversation with Richard about the merger. The plans to use my baby to secure Grandpa's fortune. Even your instructions to the video editor about doctoring Alara's footage." The room went deadly quiet. Richard's smug expression cracked. Dad's face drained of color. "You're lying," Mom said, but her voice wavered. "Am I?" Serafina pressed play. Mom's voice filled the room, crystal clear. "Edit out anything about the merger. Make her look unstable. Once she's committed, no one will believe her anyway." Grandpa moved faster than I'd ever seen him move. He snatched the commitment papers from my hands, tearing them to shreds. "Marlo," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "What have you become?" "Dad, I can explain." "Explain what?" Callista cut in. "How you were willing to commit your own daughter to a psychiatric facility to protect your lies?" Mom's composure finally shattered. "Everything I did was to protect this family's legacy. The merger would have secured all our futures. If Alara had just stayed quiet, if I had just disappeared, I finished for her. Like I've been disappearing my whole life. Staying quiet at missed birthdays, ignored art shows, every time you chose the company over me. You ungrateful." She lunged forward, but Serafina stepped between us. "Enough, Mother. I won't let you do to my child what you did to Alara. This ends now." Richard moved toward the door. "This is ridiculous. I never agreed to." "Sit down," Grandpa commanded. "Nobody leaves until we settle this." He turned to Mom, his expression hard. "You're done here, Marlo. As of this moment, you're removed from the company board. The merger is canceled. You can't. I can and I will. The company goes to Callista and Alara. Serafina too, if she wants it." He looked at each of us in turn. It's time this family remembered what actually matters. Mom's face contorted. "Conrad, say something." Dad stood up slowly. For the first time in my memory, he met Mom's gaze directly. "I should have said something 16 years ago." He turned to me.
"I'm sorry, Alara."
"I was a coward." "A coward?" Mom's laugh was hysterical. "You're all cowards, destroying everything I built." "You built nothing," Serafina interrupted. "You just controlled and manipulated until you got what you wanted. But you forgot something, Mother. You forgot that real family can't be bought or controlled." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw past the perfect exterior to the scared little girl who'd once told me bedtime stories, who'd been just as trapped as I was. "The video," I said quietly. "Release it." Everyone stared at me. "Release the real video," I continued. "Let everyone see the truth. No more hiding." Mom's face went white. "You wouldn't dare." Serafina's finger hovered over her phone. "Try us." In that moment, looking at Mom's crumbling facade, I realized something important. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about finally being strong enough to walk away. I took Serafina's hand. "Come on, sis. Let's go home. Not to the house with its empty rooms and hollow promises, but to somewhere new, somewhere real." 6 months later, I stood in front of my easel at Berkeley's Spring Art Showcase, watching people study my piece. The painting showed a nursery, but not the perfect one Mom had designed. This one was real. Shadows in the corners, imperfect walls, and a golden light that made even the flaws beautiful. "It's haunting," a voice said behind me. I turned to find Serafina, her baby daughter sleeping against her shoulder. "Though the yellow ducks are a nice touch. I thought about painting them white," I admitted, "but some things deserve to stay bright." She smiled, adjusting the sleeping baby. "Mom asked about you yesterday." I think she finally looked at the therapy pamphlets Dad gave her. And nothing. But she's trying. Maybe that's something." Grandpa and Callista appeared, arguing good-naturedly about the company's new direction. The art therapy program for at-risk teens had been my idea, but Callista had made it happen. Even Dad had started volunteering, teaching photography on weekends. "Your mother's letter came," Grandpa said quietly, holding out a worn envelope. "The one she wrote before you were born. I thought you should have it." I took it, feeling its weight. "Did you read it?"
"No."
"But I remember when she wrote it."
She was different then. Softer.
"Before the company became everything." I slipped the letter into my pocket unopened. Maybe someday I'd want to read about the mother she used to be, but not today. Today was about who I was becoming. The scholarship committee's here, Callista whispered, nodding toward a group of professors. Ready to show them your portfolio? Actually, I said, I want to show them something else first. I led them to the back of the gallery, where a larger canvas waited under a sheet. This painting had taken months, countless drafts, and more courage than I knew I had. I pulled off the sheet. The painting showed our family, but not in the perfect posed way of old portraits. Instead, it captured real moments. Serafina reading stories to her daughter, Callista and Grandpa laughing over coffee, Dad behind his camera. Even Mom was there, distant but present, a shadow beginning to take new shape. And in the center, a teenage girl at an easel, finally visible, finally whole. Oh, sweetheart, Callista breathed. It's called Family Portrait Unfinished, I explained. Because we're all still working on it, aren't we? Serafina squeezed my hand. Always. Later, after the scholarship committee had left, with an offer I couldn't refuse, and the gallery had emptied, I found myself alone with my paintings. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. The new art therapy program. It's good work. You're good at this. Not an apology. Not yet. But maybe, like my painting, we were all unfinished works in progress. I thought about the unopened letter in my pocket, about the mother she'd been and the one she'd become, about how sometimes the hardest part of growing up is realizing your parents are growing too, in their own imperfect ways. Another text came through, this one from Dad. Proud of you, kiddo. Always have been. I looked at my family portrait one last time before covering it for the night. The shadows were there, but so was the light, making even the darkest corners glow with possibility. Just like the nursery painting, it wasn't perfect. But maybe perfect wasn't the point. Maybe the point was learning to see beauty in the broken places, strength in the struggles, and hope in the spaces we leave blank, waiting to be filled with whatever comes next. I turned off the gallery lights and stepped into the evening, ready for my next canvas.